Good morning, comrades. First of all, before you all start thinking, oh, he's been kidnapped. No, don't worry. It's just a pop-up Brussels, a YouTube event, and usually I film on my phone, and now we all film a bit of a professional manner. And although I could have had a video explaining, for example, the horrific crash involving 15 cars on the Nürburgring that you all have asked me to do, or have a castle vlog, or have an amazing food shot. No, I'm actually gonna tell you more about and ask you more about the car for me for next year. So as I told you in yesterday's video, I want to get something new for next year. And why? So first of all, a quick, let's say, flashback to the Sub 7 Up, a car that I'm currently driving. And for people who are new to this channel and are still asking like, why the hell is he driving an Up if he has the access to the M4, M3, the McLaren, the Ferrari, he had 570S and everything and this and that. So the reason why we chose that in the first place is the Up is a kind of accessible car. Pretty much everyone with, let's say, minimal income, well, average income in Europe can afford one and just go out and drive the car and go out on the Nürburgring and have fun with it. Initially, when we started Apex, we wanted to have something similar to Focus RS, but then I had a temporary Volkswagen Up, and all of you guys, all of my day one audience loved it so much, loved all the puns that I had with it. We need to catch up with other car, we're gonna upset the other car, all the puns. And we thought, okay, let's make it Up, let's make it as a project car. And that's how it all started. And it turned out amazing. I mean, this is probably, if not the most known Up in the world at this point. But however, unfortunately, there are some limitations. So it has mostly to do with the power. The car is powered by a 3-cylinder, 1-liter turbocharged engine, which in stock form generates 90 horsepower. And now we tuned it up to 125 wheel horsepower, but that's it. You all know that I have received a turbocharger from a good sub, Vincent. Another thank you very much for that. But if I'm going to put that on it, it requires the intercooler conversion, it requires the engine mapping, and then I have to invest, well, maybe close to 10,000 euros into unknown because we don't know what it's going to do to the gearbox, to the engine. It might explode, it might not work at all. A lot of headache. And in Brazil, there are projects that the Up's managing there roughly 190 horsepower. But the amount of money you put into that, you kind of question, should you not just buy like a Polo GTI in the first place? So it doesn't make sense. And of course, you could swap the whole engine, but then it loses the whole idea of a kind of semi-stock car tuned to drive the Nürburgring. It loses everything. I hope most of you understand, and thereby also another issue, well, not an issue, but a thing, you need to keep things fresh, you know? Of course, I can have the whole ongoing project next year of swapping the engine, but it's better to have something new, something fancy, cool, and thereby this video, because I have multiple gazillion options, just as many as there are car brands in the world, what I should pick for next year. And thereby I want to ask you guys, my dear audience, because you will have to watch me getting in this car every day and drive it and go through it. So you have a big influence on that, like you had before throughout the year when we asked you what kind of car we should get, and we always listen to you. So thereby, I honestly want to ask you an honest advice. And keep in mind, there are a couple of things. Of course, there are budget restraints. There are also, we need to keep things real. So don't say, hey, get a Koenigsegg. Yeah, cool. Would you sponsor me to 2 million euros? No. And again, like the Up, we want to have it something that most of you guys can relate to. So the budget is also like a big constraint, although we could go something like maybe C63 or an M4, but still we want to have it more basic. So now to the options. There are actually two ways we can go. First of all, a complete brand new car, like we did with the Up, 2017 model, and go from there, have a couple of adjustments, and there are multiple benefits for it. We have the warranty for the new car, we have the hype around a certain model, and for example, also a lot of manufacturers, like aftermarket manufacturers, can jump on a bandwagon because it's a new model. They can make a new product for it. We can present it. It's going to be all amazing. It's going to be, there's multiple advantages to it. However, there's a small budget constraint, but it's not a big deal if you pick the base models, or at least, like I said, not M4 related thing, but more something like a Hyundai i30N. This is, for me at this point, probably my #1 car that I would like to get. And why? Because first of all, the N stands for Nürburgring in development. And honestly, since I live at the Nürburgring, I see every day what's happening there. That car, well, when they presented the i30N earlier this year, they said it has done something like 10,000 laps on the Nürburgring and development cycle, whereas most of the other prototypes go out, do a couple of laps, they get the data, okay, fine, let's go to Alaska, do some cold weather tests, whereby this car was doing many, many laps. And I must say, Hyundai was probably lying. They didn't do 10,000 laps. I think they did it closer to 50,000 laps. Because every single day when I got out there, okay, Hyundai, Hyundai, Hyundai. So that car's really focused for the Nürburgring, and then the stock trim is going to be amazing. The first reviews have come out recently this month regarding this car. And every single automotive journalist was praising that car for the gearbox, for the agility, the power delivery. Everything was great. So thereby, of course, it's obvious first choice. The second choice is the new Megane RS 2018, because again, Megane RS has, well, how should I say, everyone knows that it's a great car. The previous models have been great. It's one of the most frequently chosen ring tools on the Nürburgring, the Megane RS. And thereby, the new model promises a lot of interesting features. For example, first of all, there's going to be a pedal shift gearbox. And no, I'm not going to go through this discussion now where you should be driving a manual set of pedal shift. If you have 300 plus horsepower, pedal shifts are definitely the way to do on the Nürburgring. You don't want to miss shifts, because you don't want to blow up your engine, or you don't want to lock up the wheels and end up in a barrier. And, well, simple as that. If you want to drive fast, nowadays you have to accept it. Pedal shifts are the way to go. But however, the Megane RS, this is a car that we are looking for to buy for Apex itself. So thereby, like, why should I get one and have two? So this is probably something new. So those are the two cars that I'm really thinking of. The front-wheel drive, of course, and then you'll be, okay, what are the rear-wheel drive alternatives? The new Supra, but God knows when it's going to come out, probably only in 2019. What else do we have? Any BMW? The issue is the BMW is probably out of the box the best car that you can get from the Nürburgring. However, everyone has it. Of course, for the same particular reason that it's the best car, but I want to be different. For the same reason that I have the Up. So no BMW and something different. So this is regarding the new cars. Now, like I told you earlier, I have mostly like two types of cars that I'm going to pick from, the new car or the used car. And used car is something that I'm actually looking forward to. But the issue that we have there is so much choice that I actually cannot choose. But there are a couple of things that I really am looking at. First of all, I'm not going to get the E36. Tim has one, Diana has one, and I'll be like, what, third member of Apex, they're going to have an E36? Of course, they're amazing cars. They're cheap, they're reliable at some point, to a certain extent, and they're great. But again, I want to have something different, so it's not going to be an E36. Earlier in the previous vlogs, I told you that we could get like a Mercedes-Benz 190E, and not to mess up the Evo 2, Evo 1, just put the Evo 1, Evo 2 body kit on it, tune the engine, Cosworth engine, and have roughly 200 horsepower would be great. I don't think many people have done. I've seen a couple of those cars on the Nürburgring. Would be interesting to see what they're capable of, and that would be something unique. Then something I'm really more looking, well, my heart goes towards is JDM-ish car, because as many of you should know by now, I started with a JDM. I started with Subaru Impreza, which had back in the time 705 horsepower, which would be crazy overkill to drive that on the Nürburgring. But should I go again for Impreza, or should I go for Evo? Because this is something, I kind of always wanted to try out. And I always also say all-wheel drive makes you understeer. It also causes a lot of issues because the gearbox is going to be overheating on the Nürburgring with a lot of usage. So those are some downsides, but those are the downsides that I can explain to you by using the real-life example and tell you how we can tackle those. So for example, add additional cooling on the gearbox and such and such and such. So Evo is something I'm really looking at this point. If you would ask me which model, I would probably go for an Evo 6 because I really like the raw 90s look on it. 7 to 9 would be also great, then I would go for a 9, but nothing below 6, and not a 10, because 10 is not even an Evo. This is something that shouldn't exist. But unfortunately, it's the last model, and, well, if you have an Evo 10, I'm sorry, but I really am not a fan of the looks. Then, if we stick at the JDM brand, we can also go for a Nissan Silvia S13 because it's rear-wheel drive. It has plenty of horsepower. Well, plenty. You can have as many as you want, as much as your budget reaches, but within reasonable amount of budget, you can have roughly 400 horsepower, healthy horsepower. The light car, rear-wheel drive, have a lot of fun with it, so that would be something that we could look at. Also 240, 260, 280Z, like the Datsun, the old Fair Lady, but yeah, there again are multiple ways we can go with it. There's also obviously Volvos. We can go more recent models like the S70, V70, 850, but they're front-wheel drives. They're heavy. It's more of a like a meh. Old models like 240, 242, a rear-wheel drive, maybe 2JZ swap would be nice, but there's also liability and the safety issue. Of course, you can cage it, but if we're going to put 2JZ 1000 horsepower in it and go straight and the brakes suddenly don't want to brake anymore, we go into a wall. This is something I would rather do with a Volvo, but still at the same time not do with the Volvo. And of course, there's also a possibility to get a Lada. Yeah, well, Boosted Boris would love a Lada, and that would be a lot of fun. Haha, nice pun. But again, there are endless possibilities. So to summarize, because I think by now we probably already like way over 10 minutes of this video, and that should be plenty enough. So we can go for a new car, i30N, or something more related to that, something within the similar budget, because again, I want to have something faster than 200 horsepower, and roughly 300 is perfect amount for the Nürburgring, something interesting. Or we go for something older car and make it a nice ring-to project car, but it has to be something special. Like I told you, like an Evo, although there are a couple of Evos on the Nürburgring, or a Yugo with the Lancia engine, or. So I hope you, first of all, enjoyed this video and amazing production. I hope you're not mad at me for using those amazing tools, the studio, for just talking about my car instead of talking more serious subject, because the Lightning is like, I don't know, Christopher Nolan-ish film, so that would be amazing. We can talk about the ghost of the Nürburgring castle. Maybe not. Okay, back to the cars, and for more car content, make sure to subscribe, like, share everything on my channel, and see you guys in tomorrow's vlog, where I, at this point, have no idea what's gonna happen. Thanks a lot, bye-bye. And we made it to Essen Motor Show, so let's see if we can find some bling, some low, some wide bodies, actually a lot of stuff.